Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Aphelion, Reaperdawn, out August 9th on Century Media Records. The album has 8 tracks, 50 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are a Swedish-Dutch black metal band. When it comes to the design of this record, I think this is an album that offers two different perspectives, or at least blends two different perspectives together in order to make a much better overall experience. On one hand, when you look at the big picture of this record, it's really easy to see an album that is cohesive, concise, well organized, balanced. I would go as far as to say even linear as far as the overall experience is concerned from beginning to end. The album never really loses its shape, it never really loses its identity regardless of which song you're in. But the deeper you dive into the individual tracks, the more you see the uniquenesses of those songs coming to the surface, and that allows the experience of the album to feel a lot more dynamic. When you bring these two worlds together, you create an album that has great playability, that is enjoyable to listen to, that is engaging for the listener, and you're able to digest what each and every single song has to offer without losing track of what the big picture is all about. As far as the sound is concerned, this is definitely a black metal record with a lot of melodic black metal influences. One does not define the other, but the two working together allow the sound on this album to be a lot more rich, to be a lot more textured, to have a lot more to offer to the listener. I also feel like this is an album that is going to speak to old black metal fans, but also to a new generation that's used to more of a polished approach. Not to say that this album is overly produced, because it's not. They found a way of pushing the envelope to a certain degree, but not necessarily crossing it. On one hand, you're going to find that the black metal style of sound is present, alive and well throughout the entire album. Very driven, very dark, with those melodic influences really creating pockets that allow the album overall to be a little bit easier to digest for fans that are on the periphery. This album is very approachable from that standpoint. It's not an album that becomes cumbersome because the nature of the sound never really deviates. This record gives a lot of different textures. It has a lot of different textures, and because of it, it becomes an album that is a little bit more palpable. It's a little bit easier to navigate. And then as far as the production is concerned, it takes it to a point where you're able to see all of the different elements of the sound coming together, but it doesn't polish them to a way that it removes completely their own unique fingerprint and removes the fingerprint of the genre itself. The album finds a very unique balance between being old school but not necessarily sounding old school, and being modern without necessarily sounding modern. It's somewhere in between that line, in between that space, that the sound of this record exists. One of the reasons for that, besides of the production obviously, is the guitar sound on this album being as strong as it is. It's a great album from that standpoint. The guitars are alive and well. They're alive and well in terms of how driven, how dark, how penetrating they are, really bringing that sense of black metal darkness into the forefront and dragging the listener through those dark corners that exist throughout this entire record, but also infusing melody into the album, but melody that also adds to the darkness, to the somberness of the record, but melody that also dilutes a little bit of the harshness of the sound, creating those important pockets that make the album more palpable to a certain degree. And then obviously infusing a lot of richness and texture in terms of the approach, the sound, the way the solos come across. Great solos on this record. It's just an album that from a guitar standpoint, it has a lot to offer. It's definitely not one-dimensional, not that I was expecting it to be, but it's an album that has a lot more to offer from a guitar sound standpoint that perhaps your more traditional black metal album would. It's also an album that from a drum standpoint, it offers oomph, it has substance, it has a way of creating a more compound experience, and it gives a little bit more texture, a little bit more depth to the overall sound, allowing the guitars to penetrate through that sound, creating a much different impact for them, allowing them to separate themselves from the overall wall of sound that the drums are trying to create. So having that substance on the drum sound actually helps the guitars tremendously because it makes that penetrating sound more noticeable. It makes it more impactful. So the drums on this record not only help the overall sound, but I felt like they did an amazing job really elevating the quality of the guitar sound and the guitar execution. Vocally, it's a very consistent record. It's an element that definitely adds to the overall mood, to the overall darkness of this record. I like the consistency of it. There are a few nuances here and there in a song here and there in terms of the vocal approach with some backing vocals. But overall, you have to see the consistency as a key factor in order to allow the album to also ground itself and have a more established red line across all 8 songs. There are some elements of the sound that help create that red line, but I felt like the vocals was the element that made it a little bit more noticeable across all 8 songs. And when you put all of this together, vocal performance, guitar sound, overall production, the way the album is presented, the pockets of melody, a much more enjoyable and easier to digest record experience, considering that you have 8 songs in 50 minutes. It doesn't really feel that way because how the album is managed in terms of the track listing and the sound and the execution of that same sound. This allows the album, in my opinion, to be one of the best black metal albums of the year so far. I have no doubts about that. It's just a great sounding record. Like I said, it's an album that has an old school style approach to it, but it doesn't necessarily sound old school. It has some modern elements, but it's not a modern album either. The ability to find room in that dark corner that exists in between these two ideas is the winning formula for a record that feels complete across all of its parameters. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with The Fields in Nadir. This is the opening track on the album. I love the somberness of the guitars as it opens. It has a really great intro. It allows you to kind of open the doors to this record and get a feel for what the experience is going to be all about. I think it's a track that showcases all of the great qualities of this record, sound-wise and vocally, in terms of the way the song is put together, the construction, the way the design of the track plays out. It's a song that is driven at times, that has penetrating guitar sounding riffs, that it has vocals that have movement. The vocals are not stagnant, the vocals are not linear. There's movement within the vocals that helps create movement within the song. It's a track that has an overall sense of darkness to it, but you still find a pocket here and there of melody that, while still having a hint of darkness, it changes the mood ever so slightly. In changing the mood, it changes the eyesight of the listener. So it's a very dynamic song that doesn't necessarily feel very dynamic when you get to the end of it. When you get to the end of it, you take more what the big picture was all about, and you tend to forget a little bit of the nuances. But if you're paying attention to those nuances, you see a track that has a lot of movement, that has a lot to offer, both musically and vocally. Next, we have Further from the Sun. This is, without a shadow of a doubt, my favorite song on the entire record. And I think it comes down to one simple fact: the chorus. The chorus on this song is haunting. It has a very haunting, somber, like making your hair and your arms stand up type of melody in the chorus, but it also has a vocal performance in the chorus that enhances that same vibe that you're getting out of the sound. So the two go hand in hand, and the chorus having that haunting nature stays with you. It allows the chorus to be hooky without necessarily having hooks in it. It's just the melody and it's just the performance, the both vocal melody and musical melody, that together really create this incredible atmosphere that the verses are building up to. This song is all about building up to that moment, and every time the chorus hits, you're just taken back by how it makes you feel, by the emotions that it carries. It's a great track. It has a sense of natural darkness to it, and that chorus is really the cornerstone of the entire song, and definitely the selling point of this track. It's a very unique track from the way it sounds, from the way that it makes you feel, and from the way you process it. There's no other track on the record that even comes close to the dynamics that this track offers, and the style of chorus and the style of design that this track puts forward. Last but not least, we have Reaperdawn, and this is a more super intense, straight to the point, no holds bar black metal track that has incredible riffage. It's really a guitar driven song. It's a song that pushes the guitars forward. The vocals help carry that momentum forward, and it's a very direct approach overall, but it works really well. And then you have a very simple chorus, where the simplicity of the chorus and of the vocal performance in the chorus allows the song to be memorable. When you're repeating Reaperdawn in the chorus, you're allowing the name of the song and the song itself to become a little bit of a tattoo in your brain. It's hard to forget this song because of how simple that chorus feels, how that chorus sounds. So it's a track that has a lot of intensity, has a lot of aggression, has a lot of direction, but it has a chorus that, while not necessarily stopping that movement, it enhances something that up until then you're just on this ride and you're not really paying necessarily attention to what's around you because you're just engulfed in the moment. The chorus allows you to take a snapshot of the moment, and that's what makes that chorus memorable, and that's what makes this one of the standout tracks on this record. This is it in Aphelion, Reaperdawn, out August 9th on Century Media Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.